Hi, I'm Bree, and this is my sister Jules. I'm an English teacher.
And I'm super sore from rock climbing yesterday.
And together, we drink wine as we unpack the brilliant writing of the hit 90s sitcom, Boy Meets World. Cheers!
Cheers!
What are we drinking?
This one is called Bonanza. It's another California wine. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
First impressions?
That's what I always say. First impressions, the word bonanza makes me think about Crash Bandicoot.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wait, why?
I know, I don't know why either.
But
it must be in there, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Crash Bandicoot. The Wrath of Cortex, the best one. Low key.
I don't know. First impressions, it's very, we don't know how to talk about wine. It's like juicy. It tastes like juice. Concentrated. It's like thick. Hey.
It tastes like grape juice that has been sitting outside in 75-degree weather. But you know what? It's good.
Did you leave it outside? Like, I kind of chilled mine a little. So.
Yeah, your glass is chilled. Mine is not.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it goes down relatively smoothly, and it retails for about $20.
I think it could be a little cheaper. But, you know, we had the Casillero del Diablo. Is that what it was called? Last week? And that one was like $10. And I was like, yeah, like this is good for $10. It's not like a great wine, but
yeah,
I will enjoy this wine with some food. That's kind of how I feel about this one. Like this one should be maybe closer to 15. Mine was like 20.
Seems like a reasonable price, yes.
Yeah.
According to the website, it reflects the, in quotes, bonanza of the great state of California, the discovery of land where delicious Cabernet can be farmed. Bonanza features flavors of dark berries, vanilla, and toasty bread with silky tannins.
Ooh, toasty bread. Huh?
I'm getting the berries for sure because we said grape juice.
Yeah.
Everybody loves your sound effects.
I don't know if I'm tasting toasty bread now or I'm inserting toasty bread taste into this wine because I am seeking
Did you just have bread?
No.
Well, you know what? I am tasting the vanilla.
I wish I had some interesting things to say about this one. Like, oh, it tastes like a baby scalp. But it doesn't. It does.
Yeah, you haven't been able to top that.
I haven't been able to get specific with y'all. All right, let's get into the episode. The title of this episode 9 of season 1 is called Class Pre-Union. Weird name, didn't get it, had to watch the episode, had my moment. This was directed by David Trainer, written by Ed Decter, cool name, and John J. Strauss. It aired November 26th, 1993, and viewers 15.8 million. The synopsis: Mr. Feeny fouls up Cory's dream to become a baseball player. Little play on the word foul there. First impressions.
This is not an episode that pulled me in for sure. However, I did have a moment or two at the end that I was touched by and fascinated by a special guest that appeared that I had to do a bunch of research on him when he entered stage. I know.
I'm so glad you did the research on him. I was too worried about the teaching stuff that I kind of was like, oh, it's a baseball player. Okay, good. You'll provide us with that information.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. My first impression was just, all my energy went into really being disappointed in Feeny this episode. You know, teachers that are very impactful, that power can flip. And because students really hang on their every word and care about what they have to say and take what they say to heart, they have the power to really crush students' dreams by saying the wrong thing. And so it was really heartbreaking to see Feeny fail in this episode because I really do see it as a failure.
And it's very interesting that the episode just before this one, Cory and Sean were talking about how he is severely overpaid, as if they don't care about him and they don't think that his work is important. And now in this episode, his opinion means the world to him and his dreams are crushed. I just think I think that was intentional. And
it ties in with the whole baseball thing because the whole transition to talking about Feeny and how much he's paid is talking about how much baseball players are paid, and they're paid a lot.
Yes.
A lot more. So Cory wants to be paid $6 million a year as a center fielder for the Philadelphia Phillies. And I thought it was funny that Feeny was like, so that's actually not that much money if you take into account inflation. And I was like, oh yeah, how much money? First of all, that's so much. Like if I made $6 million a year, I would be living the life. I would be so happy. If I made,
we would only be doing this podcast.
yeah, oh my God, 6 million. That's so much money.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
But I wonder
6 million a year?
Right?
That's amazing. You made it.
I would like to make $100,000 a year, please.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you. Anyway, let's get into it. So we start off in the living room, and the screen is all like old 90s camcorder screen with like the little right angle.
Yeah, what do you call those things? You call those red
We're making
angles?
finger motions right now. Those little white right angles in the corners.
What are they and why are they?
There's definitely an answer. I don't know. Cory talks into the screen, into the camera. He's holding a ticking stopwatch and he says, I'm Cory Matthews. Today on Eyewitness Cory, a probing expose on the plight of the middle child. Stay with us.
I love that he was mimicking 60 Minutes with the stopwatch. That was so funny.
That is ingrained in my brain because our parents would watch that.
Tick, 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 because it would be happening right before dinner. And we would be listening to the tick, 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 tick. And it was like a pretty soothing sound, but then they would like immediately talk about the most atrocious story you've ever heard of.
But also I was like, wow, Feeny's really making an impression on Cory. We can see the vocabulary expanding, probing expose, plight, like good words, my dude. So Alan, Amy, Morgan, they all come downstairs. They're heading off to a birthday party. Morgan is wearing mom's like gold necklace to the party. I don't get it. Cory's whole thing is the middle child thing, which I laugh at when I see those memes online about how the middle child like just is ignored. I don't really even know what it is actually. I'm like realizing now that I don't really understand the plight of the middle child. We don't have a middle child in our family.
Middle child syndrome is definitely a thing. Yeah. What I know it to be is to your point, right? You know what it's like to be an older sister, like the oldest kid. And I know what it's like to be the youngest kid. And there is like privilege that comes with both of those. There's positives and negatives. Right. And I think middle child lacks both of those things, like both of those sides, and they can sometimes feel overlooked and ignored.
Oh, so sad.
It's terrible. I know. It's terrible.
Cory, so Cory's like, party, necklace, new dress, all for your daughter. Yet just last night, your son was imprisoned in his room, forbidden to go to the movies with his best friends. And Alan sticks his face in the camera, goes, our daughter didn't dial random numbers in Saskatchewan to hear people talk Canadian. They leave. Cory says, there you have it, all across America, middle children suffering at the hands of suspicious, mistrustful parents, because Alan had told them to be careful with the camera and not to dial the phone or anything. And then Cory drops the camera. And we just hear, next week, grounded and how to cope with it. Very Aaron Carter.
Yes.
Very Aaron's party, come get it coded.
Yes.
We transition to the classroom. Cory is dressed like George Washington. And Minkus is dressed like King George III. Actually, part of my first impressions, Minkus's performance in this episode was epic. This was his best performance yet. He was phenomenal.
Ooh, why do you say that?
He had like very complicated lines to say, and he sold all of them. And he was acting fully like a grown person. And I was like, this kid is amazing. Feeny goes, taxation without representation. King George. And Minkus says, we provide the colonies with all of their finished manufactured goods. We deserve remuneration.
Say that word
right?
Again?
Exactly. Remuneration. I had to look it up.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard that word. It means the act of paying for goods or services to recompense for losses.
Oh.
And I was like, wow. Yeah.
You would think that we would have heard that in like in learning this history or in any sort of
we probably did
like Game of Thrones or whatever. But no, because that's a weird word.
Sixth grade history or Game of Thrones should have taught us this word.
Like
both
they would have
us.
said that word.
Anyway, and like the way Minkus says it is so, it's like he has been using that word for 40 years. Like it was so good. Mm-hmm. So Feeny turns to Cory, General Washington, like, what do you have to say? Because they're having a debate. Cory's like, fine, keep your goods. Like, we need your stinking British goods. We're American. We're independent. We'll get our goods from Japan. LOL. Feeny's, he's unsatisfied with that. He pushes it. You gotta elaborate. And Cory's like, what's the point? Everybody knows what happens. Like, America kicks British butt. And Feeny's like, winners and losers aside, Mr. Matthews, if we do not understand history, we are doomed to repeat its mistakes. This is a running theme. Feeny says this a lot. This is like, because we got this in the last episode a little bit too, like Cory being like, prejudice, it's in the past, right? Like, and Feeny's constantly like, no, we have to learn about history because it's so true. And I kind of thought we were going to go down this path in this episode, and we kind of just took a whole left turn and went in a different direction. Yeah. But good start. The way they transitioned it into the topic for this was, he's like, all right, so apparently the past holds no fascination for you. So perhaps you'd like to study first he says your history. And Cory's like, I don't have a history. I'm 11 years old. Like, I'm worried about my future, which is totally valid. It is kind of unfortunate, I think, that we don't spend enough time with students allowing them like space to plan their futures a little bit, I guess the only time I was ever asked to do that was in computer class. We had to make a spreadsheet of like our life budget. So we had to look up like how much it costs to rent an apartment and how much a car costs and how much the insurance for the car costs and how much groceries cost. And we had to like actually budget out our lives and figure out like how much money we need to make in order to pay for the things that we will need, which was super helpful. But like, that was the only time I ever had to do that. Like, we don't really spend much time, like, or we don't give kids space to be like, okay, if you want to do this with your life, like if you're going to be a tire, repairman, like Sean, like, here are the things that you should probably be studying in school. Like, you don't actually need to learn how to write an essay on Charles Dickens's, Christmas Carol. Like,
yeah, I know what you're
saying. You should probably learn how to, right?
Yeah, I was always amazed at how much focus my education was just like on traditional education of like math, science, all that stuff. But like no attention was given to personal finances, how to budget, how to manage your wealth, like things like that. You kind of just have to figure it out on your own.
So this is called differentiation or individualized education, where you are teaching each kid individually. Like, you're not giving the whole class the same project. You're giving each individual kid a different assignment or project that is more in line with their goals and their interests. It's really important for teachers to do this. It's also a lot to ask teachers to do this because it's a whole lot more work. But it can be easier if you put the work on the students. And I've mentioned this in the past, but one of the pitfalls teachers often make is like doing a lot of the learning themselves, right? And so we talked about like giving students projects where they have to teach other people lessons or they have to learn the material themselves in order to be prepared to do a presentation on it the next day. Like Cory reading Anne Frank because suddenly he was in charge and had to teach the rest of the class Anne Frank, right? So it can be less work on the teacher if the work is really put on the students to do it. Anyway, I was just thinking a lot about that in this episode. Like, yeah, we really should give students more chances to go down their own research paths and figure out what they need to know for their own future and their own plans. Because I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was very young. And it worked out for me that everything I was doing in school was helping me with my career because I was observing teachers all the time and that's what I was going to become. But I can't imagine if I was like Cory and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. This is all it's not serving me in any way, Yeah. So Feeny's like, all right, you're not interested in the past. You're interested in the future. I'm going to pivot, which is a really good teacher move. Be flexible. Don't stick to your plan just because you have a plan. If the kids aren't into it, you got to switch it up.
Yeah.
So he switches it up and he says, here's what we'll do. You're going to write a personal history for yourself as if you are returning for your 20th high school reunion. Minkus tosses up so it's more like a pre-union. And that's where we get the title of the episode. And I was like, thanks, Minkus. Now I get it. You are the graduating class of the year 2000.
Ooh, what was going on in 2000?
In 2000, I was 10.
Yeah, in 2000, I was finishing kindergarten.
So Minkus is like, Mr. Feeny, would it be okay if I brought my wife? And Shauna's like, oh, come on, Minkus, what's going to marry you? Mean. Kind of annoyed me that Feeny didn't say Sean detention. Like, you can't just say that. That's so rude. That's like
what is going to marry you? mean.
That's horrible. And he said, like,
Bullying.
I was like, wow. Minkus says Topanga.
Immediately.
But the way he says it is like, Topanga.
Topanga.
And the crowd is like, ooh. And Topanga's like, why, Stuart, I'm flattered that you would consider me as a potential life mate, but I'm not sure I even recognize the institution of marriage.
Liberal
I was like, girl,
Topanga.
me too.
Let's enjoy it while it lasts.
I love Topanga. And I also like really want to meet her fictional parents because they are just raising her right. I just love it.
Do we ever meet them? I don't remember ever meeting them.
We meet her mom, and we definitely meet her like aunt because there's one part where she is going to move to Boston or something, and then she stays with her aunt. But I think we meet her mom. I'm not sure if we meet her dad. Anyway, I just remember her mom was like very beautiful, and her aunt was very beautiful too. But definitely agree. Topanga. I don't think I recognize the institution of marriage either. I think it's ridiculous. Why is the government involved? Why is the government involved in my relationship with someone else? And also, it's a sexist. The seeds, the roots are sexist. And I just
Correct.
It's like, oh, it's just so crazy to me that we do this. And so many people that get divorced are like, this is horrible. Like my life is ruined. Like I'll never be the same because now I have to pay this person money for the rest of my life. Like it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I don't want, why? I am now legally bound to this person for the rest of my life because I was in a relationship with them in the past and it's over now. I can't.
Yeah. What are the technical benefits of getting married? Are there tax benefits?
People always say tax benefits, and I'm like,
what does that
okay,
mean, though?
How much money are we talking here?
Yeah. How much money are we saving?
The only thing I could think of is like if I'm in the hospital and my, spouse, my partner can't see me and like can't be with me because like I can. That's sad. Like I get that.
It's like if I was with a partner for like 10 years and we just haven't gotten married and I can't see them in the hospital on their deathbed because I don't have a ring on my finger and I don't have a paper signed. That's insane.
Like how often do they have people that like really want to see someone that they can't let in? Unless there's, okay, you know what? I get it. Because maybe there's like a beloved person in there and there's like 20 people that want to see them and they have to limit it to just like the people. I get that. Fine. Anyway. Topanga, I agree. Also, Minkus is like, trust me, babe. I've seen the future and it's me.
I love his confidence.
He's being a little bit of like a gross, possessive man, but it's hilarious because it's
funny because it's Minkus. Yeah,
I know.
I wouldn't find it as funny or cute if it was not Minkus, but it is Minkus.
I know, but we should treat him the same as we treat anyone else, and the way he's being is a little bit like
equality. You're right.
Exactly. You're being gross, Minkus. Topanga is clearly not interested, so back off.
Yeah, back off.
No means no.
Yeah.
We're in the cafeteria. Cory and Sean are talking. This is where Sean talks about how he's going to be a tire salesman. He's like, that's what my dad does. I know what to wear. I know how to use a pressure gauge. It really does matter what your parents are because you're probably going to do something kind of like them, And so Alan allowing his kid to dream is big. Like that's, Alan is truly a superhero.
Yeah.
An incredible father.
Yeah, the parents in this show, I didn't realize how amazing they are at teaching their kid that the sky's the limit, and
yeah,
it's incredible to watch.
It really is, and they really just like let him be him. Like if we were getting like C's and D's in school, and I don't necessarily disagree with this other parenting style, like we would be in trouble. Like it would be a problem.
My God, yes.
And for him, his parents are just like, you get C's and D's, bud. Like that's you, and like they want him to try harder, but they don't like sit him down and go like, we're getting you a tutor. What's going on? Yeah,
they kind of accepted his fate of like being an average student because I think they see something else in him, right? They're like, okay, our kid is not like a star A+ student, but he's going to turn out just fine. They're very sure he's going to be fine, which like most kids are, even if they're not A+ students. That's not like the only defining factor of success.
And that's beautiful. And honestly, like if I was a parent and the teacher that my kid had was next door, I would totally be like, but you got to try harder. Like let's do this homework together. Because Because I'd be like, because I would, and it's not, I'm saying this is wrong, but like I would make it about me and my reputation with that teacher and our neighbor. You know, I'd be like, he's gonna think that I don't know how to raise my kid, or that I'm stupid because you're stupid. You know, we gotta show him that we're not stupid. You know,
You would do that.
I totally would. I admit it. I'm also a teacher, so I would be like embarrassed if my kid was also not doing well.
Your kid would come home to more school. You'd be like, all right, whip open those books.
No, legit, I would. So I'm that much more impressed with them that they're just like, if Feeny has an issue, we'll talk to him. Like, whatever, you know, like they're just like, our kid's our kid. We love you regardless. It's lovely. Anyway, so we have a new kid number 3 who's planning on being Feeny because he says imitation is the sincerest form of butt kissing. So he's going to show up to the fake 20-year reunion as Feeny and say that he wants to be a teacher when he grows up. Sean's going to show up as the tire repairman. Cory's like, come on, people. Am I the only one with vision here? You're just copying the, men in your life. I'm going to be a center fielder for the Philadelphia Phillies. They laugh. Apparently, he had like 31 errors in Little League last year. And then it all ends with a big manly rah-rah, we're men. Then we're in the living room. Amy is helping Cory put his project together.
Amy's so sweet. And I have a bone to pick with her, which we'll get to.
Okay, we'll get there. Morgan traded her mother's gold necklace that her mom let her borrow for that party at the beginning for a plastic one at school. And Amy calls the mom to get her necklace back. And the mom was like, well, but the kid said black, no trades back. And I was like, what? It's crazy. Also, I really hope that doesn't have like a racist like past, whatever that stupid saying is.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh, we should probably look that up. But that, yeah. I don't like the sounds of
like
that.
It would, right? Sounds like the kind of thing that you'd be like,
oh no.
Yeah, we don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we're in the classroom and Minkus, this is where Minkus really, he's been shining this whole time, but this is where I was like, oh my God, Minkus, you're killing it. He seamlessly flowing like a 55-year-old businessman is saying, then after my leveraged buyout of Microsoft, I went public and became the largest software manufacturer in the free world.
You know what? I believe it. Yeah. He will do that.
I know. I looked up who the largest software manufacturer in the free world was, and it's still Microsoft.
It's still
which is
Microsoft,
interesting.
It's still funny Microsoft because they had an outage today.
So now you know what day we recorded this, y'all. But yeah, Microsoft is it's the biggest, but then Google does the most. Anyway, it's interesting because Google looks like it actually makes more money, but Microsoft is considered number 1 according to Forbes. Not that anyone cares about this. I was just curious. Because low-key, I was like, did Minkus do it? Who's the biggest now? Is it
God damn it, he did it.
God damn it, he did it. Minkus is Google. Okay, Feeny. Mr. Minkus taking over a company is no simple task. It requires proof of assets, bank guarantees, countless applications. And Minkus goes, Mr. Feeny, who do you think you're dealing with? A list of my creditors, my loan guarantees, and my approval by the Federal Trade Commission. See, I can't even say it. And this 11-year-old said it like perfectly. He wrote it.
Perfectly. Like he invented the words.
Remuneration. He taught me a word, this kid.
That word. He was the first person to ever use that word. I've never heard that word before. I don't think it was a real word.
Apparently we have because we've seen this episode.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Feeny gives him an A. And then the way Minkus introduces the Topanga thing, he's like, thank you, Mr. Feeny. And on the personal front, my lovely wife, Topanga, and I have just celebrated the birth of our 3rd child, Rainbow Einstein Minkus. Because Topanga would name her kid Rainbow.
Yeah, she would. I love that he considers her in that moment.
I know. Because she clearly did not consent.
She didn't consent to the marriage or the children.
Exactly. But he let her name the kid in his mind. So Sean arrives dressed as the tire salesman. He's got like a big belly. He's like, my dad's fat. My uncle's fat. My grandpa's fat. Let's face it, Cor. I'm going to be fat. The way he delivered that line was really good. Topanga wants to be president of the United States. This is her project. So she has arrived, but she's dressed in a toga, which is confusing. Feeny mentions that. So she disbanded the military and eliminated nuclear weapons. you go girl. And apparently we all wear togas now. And because it eliminates the hostile competition that fashion often creates. Girl, I would adopt this kid in a heartbeat. I'm just agreeing with everything she's saying. It also is sounding a little, to bring back The Giver, it's sounding a little utopian society turns into a dystopian society. And it will.
Yeah.
In a moment.
Yeah.
So Feeny's like, this world of yours seems like quite a peaceful and loving place. And Topanga's like, yes, especially since we moved all the men underground and used them just for breeding. And I was like, and there it is.
And there's your dystopia.
And there's the dystopian underbelly. A group of 3 students wrote dystopian stories for me because it was a dystopian story writing unit that I did with them. And their society was this. It was such a good story. Still one of the best student projects I've ever gotten. And that was 7th grade. So it wasn't totally crazy to me that Topanga would have this idea.
Yeah.
You know? That's
super impressive though that was 7th grade.
So when Topanga says that the men are being used for breeding, the crowd cheers. Feeny tells her that Minkus thinks that they're married. And Topanga says, well, Minkus and I obviously do not see eye to eye. And then Minkus across the room just yells, we're married. And Topanga yells back, you're breeding stock. And Minkus says, I'll take it.
That was great.
And you said this. You were like, I can't wait for Minkus and Topanga to have You said this in an episode.
They're dynamic,
I was like, they're dynamic. I kind of forgot about their dynamic. It's so good. Okay, so then Feeny rails into the kid who tried to suck up to him. And we actually saw like a very scary side of Feeny.
We also know his name now. Larry.
Larry is such an old person name. That's hilarious to me. Can you imagine just like holding a baby and being like, oh, baby Larry.
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 Also, Larry seems like a nickname for Larold.
Wait, what is Larry a nickname for?
I think it's just Larry.
No. Larold?
No, I think it's just Larry.
I must know right now. Larry is a nickname for Lawrence. Duh.
Lawrence, yeah. I like Lawrence.
Larold.
Larold.
Okay, so Feeny rails into him. He's like, can you define tenure? I can look it up. Can you define curriculum? Also, I thought it was hilarious that his first question was, can you define tenure? Like, let's start with the basics, man. Priorities, right? Like, tenure, curriculum, I can look it up. Just as I thought. You're no teacher. You're nothing but a posier. Mm-hmm. Go and look it up.
Damn.
Ding, ding, ding. That was my fashion moment, actually. The kids' miniaturized version of Feeny's outfit.
The mustache. I love the commitment. That was great.
Was so good. So it's Cory's turn to present. He wants to be a baseball player. And this is where Feeny is not the best teacher. The way I analyze this is Cory starts to tell him that he wants to be a center fielder for the, Philadelphia Phillies, that he plans to make $6 million a year. But what he says that I believe is the thing that pushes Feeny into offense mode is he tells Feeny that he's going to start his career at 11th grade and he's going to drop out of high school. And this is where Feeny starts to probe him with really ridiculous questions, honestly, like, $6 million, that's like nothing with, inflation, which is obviously ridiculous to say. That's so much money even today. What are you going to do? And then Cory starts floundering and he's like, I'll invest it. And Feeny's like, in what? And he's like, buildings. There's going to be buildings with floors and people in them. And he's like, all right, so like, who's going to handle all this? That sounds like a lot of work. And he's like, the people in the buildings will handle it. I don't know. And they get into this back and forth. But Cory's like, can you ask me about like my batting average? Like, and I like that. First of all, we saw Feeny rail into another kid first. So it's not just him picking on Cory, right? But, I also like that we saw that he worked hard on this because he was up with Amy and they worked together on it. So I was like, what is he doing? I was like, Cory actually worked on this. Like and you did this whole thing because he wasn't invested in the history lesson that you were doing. And he got very invested in this lesson in his future. And he actually did a lot of work. And, as a teacher, if a student puts a lot of work in, the last thing I ever want to do is discourage that. I always have to acknowledge, like, okay, maybe you didn't do it the way that I asked you to do it, but you certainly cared, and that's good, and we want that to, we want to keep that up. Feeny ends up giving him an incomplete. Cory was up late with his mom working on it.
Yeah, but he
And
doesn't
he gives
know
him
that.
an incomplete. I know that he doesn't know that, but as a teacher, especially as a teacher as good as Feeny, you can tell when a student worked hard on something. Again, even if it's not what you wanted them to do, you can tell if a kid put time into something, and he put time into it. And he gives him an incomplete.
It seems harsh.
But he doesn't tell him what he should do to get the complete. And this is where I'm like, whoever was writing Feeny before had teacher experience. The people writing Feeny now, because I know it's like a bunch of different writers on these, doesn't have teacher experience. Because this is not how a teacher would roll. You don't give a kid an incomplete for something they worked hard on, but then not tell them if you do this, that they technically completed, exactly, and then not give them like, here's what you need to do to get the complete. Just leave. It was a metaphor. I get it. The whole point was that his future is unwritten. But again, Feeny's smarter than I just think Feeny's a brilliant character, and I just don't think that this vibes with his character. This whole plot line.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
We get a lot of metaphorical talk like, you threw me out before I even got to first base. You threw away my future. And Feeny just sighs and walks away. Again, not Feeny. Not his character.
Yeah.
We're back in the bedroom. Cory is taking down posters saying he doesn't deserve a future, closing blinds. There's nothing out there for me. My future's empty. It's unwritten. I'm not going to be what my dream is. I'm not going to become a baseball player. And so I don't know what I'm going to be, so I don't have any hope anymore. And Eric talks about saving up for a vintage Mustang in 3 years, and Cory takes on the whole like jaded adult perspective, like, well, how are you gonna pay for the insurance? And Eric's like, oh no, Dad'll help me. And he's like, what if Dad can't afford to help you, Eric? And Eric's like, I don't know, I'll work 2 jobs and go to school. Work 2 jobs and go to school. Eric, you're nothing but a pose, yeah. And then Eric, we have a little like moment of like who Eric is gonna become in this, and he's like, really? What do you think of this pose? He does this like...
I caught a glimpse of future Eric, and I was like, I can't wait for that.
Plays with squirrels. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Yes.
Alan comes in. Eric leaves saying he doesn't want anything to do with Captain Bummer. And the way that he says that was also very Eric Nouveau. Eric 2.0, who's coming, who's on the horizon. Alan and Cory have a sweet father-son talk. Your mom told me about the assignment. Cory's like, it was my future. I have an incomplete future. And Alan's like, of course you do. When it's complete, people tend to call it the past. And then Cory calls Feeny a dream crusher, which is real. And Alan's like, I don't care what Feeny says. You can do anything you put your mind to. And Alan talks about how he wanted to build bridges, but he didn't want to, just become a manager of a grocery store. He's like, well, after a while, like dreams change. Like I wanted to have a wife and kids then, that's what my dream became. And I achieved that. He says, you know what I dream of now? Being the father of a Phillies center fielder.
Aw.
So sweet.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
Obviously, Cory does not become a center fielder. We know his future because we have seen it. But he wants this now. And if you just like support your kid and also support them changing their mind, I think that's brilliant. I was just listening to the Henry Winkler episode of Smartless, who played the Fonzie. He had a lot to say about his parents and how unhappy he was with his parents. They were like these German immigrants who escaped World War II, and they crushed him, it sounded like, and did not support his dreams of becoming an actor. And he was also dyslexic, and I get the feeling that they were not probably very helpful with that. And he was like so impassioned about this idea that like parents need to embrace the dreams that their children have and help them achieve them and support them achieving them, and not just be happy when they've achieved their dreams despite your attempts to not get them to achieve those dreams. So I got the impression that like his parents were like, no, you can't be an actor. And then when he became a super famous actor, they were like, we're so proud of you, right?
Unlike you, I never had like a super strong dream that I wanted to fulfill. Like the strongest dream I ever had as far as my career goes is that I really wanted to be a music supervisor. And that was like my dream throughout college. And that's why I decided to pursue a music industry degree. But it wasn't strong enough where it was like, I will do anything I need to do to get there. The way that I kind of operate is like, I'm not the type of person to kind of view my life 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. I'm more of like a in the present person. So whatever feels right in the moment, I tend to go with. So when it comes to like dreams, I kind of considered where I'm at right now and if I'm happy right now. And if I'm not happy right now, I consider things that I can do in the short run to make myself happy or to make like get fulfillment, here or there.
I'm a Capricorn. I'm very much always looking to the horizon, and it's a long game for me, always. So Alan's trying to get Cory to hold on to his dream of becoming a baseball player. The scene ends with Cory saying, I used to dream like that, Dad, but now I know that sooner or later every dream comes to an end and you got to wake up. I'm so lucky that my dream, though, was to become a teacher, right? Like, if my dream was to become like Britney Spears, like, yeah, I'd have to have like a moment like this where I'd be like, you gotta wake up. You're not gonna be Britney. I was a very practical kid, I guess. Very achievable dreams. I'm like Sean. Just know I'm gonna be fat. So now we're in the living room and we get the weird B plot. I don't even want to spend time on the B plot. Like, this was honestly Morgan's best performance yet, because she kept like waving these things and then being like, oh, no, don't touch. Like, not yet.
Yeah, she did a good job there.
Morgan has successfully gotten the daughter to trade like their car for like some chocolate cake. And exactly, it's dumb. Like, this whole thing, I was like, really? The mom wouldn't give back the necklace? Come on.
But I did have a bone to pick with Amy, and my bone to pick was how nice she was in this episode. Like, I know she's a nice person, and it's lovely, it's endearing, I love it. But if some bitch took my gold necklace and was like, your daughter and my daughter traded, sorry, I'd be like, I will hunt you down. Like,
she's a Scorpio, guys, by the way.
Yeah, do not cross me. I could not believe that she was so nice about it. She's like, I'll like devise a plot to have my daughter like trade it back, which is kind of scorpionic, let's be honest. But still, I was like, girl, like, get your damn necklace back. Are you kidding me? Like, rude. Oh my God, it pissed me off.
But something tells me it's probably based on a true story that happened to one of the writers, because that's how ridiculous it was. I was like, this like wouldn't happen, but life is stranger than fiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it probably has happened. So they get the necklace back. Time lapse. We're still in the living room. I'll forgive it. Eric's on the phone. Cory interrupts. Jim Abbott is in the kitchen. Lost on me. I had no idea who Jim Abbott was. You did the research. Who is he?
So he was a former MLB baseball player. He played for the Angels, the White Sox, the Yankees, and the Brewers. From cool. I think 89 to 99, I think. So the reason why it was that he's so interesting is that he was born without a right hand, and he was a pitcher.
What?
Yeah, did you not notice? He didn't have a right hand.
Wait, I didn't even know. I feel so bad I didn't notice. Wait, what?
Yeah, so he was told time and time again, like, you're never gonna be in the MLB. Like, that's crazy talk. And so he worked literally twice as hard and ended up being on the MLB as a pitcher. And I was doing some research on him because I was like fascinated. And the way that he would play, right, is so obviously he pitched with his left hand. And so he would sit his glove on his right forearm, pitch the ball, and then in that action would slip his left hand into his glove to catch the ball if it were to come at him. Catch it. When he would catch the ball, he would put the glove back into his forearm, between his forearm and his torso, take the ball out, and then throw it. And
my God.
Yeah. And there is one game in 1993 when he was on the Yankees, I believe, that he pitched a no-hitter.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He's incredible. And I can't believe that I've never heard of him.
I've never heard of him. We should learn about him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm like, why don't we learn? Who's in charge of this? Me.
It was the perfect like end to an episode where the theme is like, you can do anything you set your mind to, which he did, point blank. Yes. And he won so many awards. He was even on the Olympic team in I think the 1988 Olympics. Like, he was incredible.
Oh, and they had him on the show. I love this show.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, and the crowd went wild when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they're acknowledging that like Cory will have to work. He might have both hands, but he got 31 errors last year. Like he needs to work twice as hard.
Yeah.
He can do it because anybody can do anything if you want it, you know? And I love that. Alan kind of did that. Like he did the whole, if you want it, you got it, and you go for it, you can get it, by sending Jim Abbott 63 telegrams, which I thought was funny because I was like, telegrams? They have telegrams still? But anyway, so he sent 63 telegrams to try to get him to come.
Right. I was thinking about that he, put his mind to it and he achieved it. Oh my God.
He was like, I want my son to be able to talk to Jim Abbott, so I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. Again, with this theme of him giving his son the things that he didn't get or achieve.
Also, he was like, you only received 63 of them? So it's implied that he sent him like a lot more. Yeah, and Jim, sits down on the couch and talks to Cory, and he talks about how he once had a coach who told him that he'll never make it to the big leagues, and that only made him work 50 times harder. And he says that he sent a tape of his no-hitter that you said that he pitched to his coach who told him he would never make it. And Cory's like, I guess you showed him. And Jim's like, no, he showed me. He showed me an application to a place called the University of Michigan. And I wondered if this was all true, even to an extent. Like was he not going to go to school and then he went? I don't know. Maybe not. Jim says, well, he was smart enough to know that if I didn't make it to the major league someday, at least I'd have a major league education. And I love that this is the message. Mm-hmm. The message of this episode is, yes, dream big. Also, get an education. Go to school and dream big.
And that is why I did a major for the dream I wanted and a major for stability.
Have we told the lovely people listening to this podcast what you actually do? What do you do?
It's always interesting talking about what I do. It's kind of
what
like...
do you do? What do you say when people say?
Well, it's kind of like
when people ask you.
Chandler talks about what he does, or when people try to describe what Chandler does, you know?
Wait, what is the thing that they say?
I'm a transponster. You know? No. On the most basic...
Transponster. Sorry, that was like one of my favorite moments ever in that entire show. How that didn't crack up. Oh, transponster.
That feels like a real job too. You know what I mean? Like when I talk about what I do, it just feels like a fake thing. It just feels like it's like, okay. No. Okay. Technically, okay. I am a program manager. So I manage
programs.
Yeah. And that can, that encompasses a lot of things. It's managing teamwork. It's managing project work. I know. It's just like I show up and I try to do the best I can do. And I just try to have a good day every day.
Do you write emails all day? Like, what do you actually do?
Oh, physically every day? I be writing emails. I be slacking people. I be meeting up with people. And I do a lot of following up and circling back. That's my job.
Do you follow Corporate Natalie?
Yes.
That's who you remind me of. I also would totally date Corporate Natalie. I think she might be queer.
Well, that's a different thing.
Wait, that's a weird thing for me to say after I just said that you remind me of her.
Oh, no.
Freudian slip. That's weird. Do we cut that? I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Tune in to find out. All right. Alan's awesome. The kids all storm in at the end of that scene for autographs from Jim Abbott. My favorite is Minkus is holding a basketball and they're all holding baseballs, obviously. And Minkus just goes, apparently I brought the wrong ball. And it's so silly and dumb and like just this one little thing. But I loved it so much because we're starting to get that like really smart writing of Boy Meets World where like we don't need a whole like thing where we see the scene where he shows up at the basketball and they're all like, Mingus, he's a baseball player. Rah. Like it happens off screen. And so he comes in and we're meant to like write the scene in our heads of what must have happened out there before they came in when Mingus showed up at the basketball, right? Because he's just like, yeah, I know. Apparently, I showed up with the wrong ball. Just sign it. You know, like we're beyond that, and I love that.
I love that. It's smart. It's smart, and
Smart
it
writing.
assumes the audience is smart too, which I appreciate.
Exactly. So then we're in the last scene of the episode. We're on the patio. Cory is attempting to catch a ball. The patio is like 5 feet wide, people, and I'm like, what did someone throw the ball over the house? Like how? It
took forever to come down. Yeah.
It took forever to come down and it seemed to be coming from quite a distance. And also, who threw it? Anyway, so he's going to catch the ball. Ball lands in Mr. Feeny's yard or his patio. Feeny takes the ball and he's like, you know the rules. Rules are rules, and throws it in a box. I'm like, at first I was like, oh my God, he's so mean in this episode. But he's like, when you learn to respect that property line, I'll learn to respect your property. And then I was like, oh, fine, I get it. If he does this all the time, I get it. Sometimes you just have to do something like that as a teacher so that students are like, okay, there's a boundary and, you know, I got to stop crossing it and then I'll learn my lesson. So Cory tells Feeny about Jim Abbott and he says, you know, Jim and I, my dad, we had a little talk and we straightened out my whole future. I am going to be in the major leagues, Mr. Feeny, no matter what you say. But Jim and my dad, well, they say that maybe I shouldn't turn pro until after college. And Feeny says, so you've changed your plans and intend to graduate? And Cory says, yeah. And I really was waiting for Feeny to give him like one of his really great, sharp, you know, brilliant nuggets of just knowledge that stick with Cory for the rest of his life. And we never really got it. Like Feeny basically says, you know, well, seems like this Abbott fellow had his future very well planned and he worked very hard to get where he is. And I was like, all right, I see where he's going. He's trying to be like, you got to work really hard and, you know, you have to have your future planned. And Cory also says, like, you have no idea how hard, Mr. Feeny. And Feeny says, well, you did better than expected. And I guess you deserve something. And Cory's like, is this your way of saying you've changed my incomplete to an A? And he says, this is my way of saying play ball. And he dumps all Cory's old balls that he's thrown into Feeny's yard into Cory's patio. And I was like, what?
Yeah, my immediate response was, I was like, so it's still an incomplete?
Literally, me too. Again, I get that they were trying to do something. Metaphor. Yes, his future's incomplete. But you're really throwing Feeny under the bus for this metaphor, guys.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It wasn't his best episode.
It really wasn't. The button on the episode is Amy and Alan watching TV with ice cream. They start to make gets a little steamy. Amy's talking about having a half hour to themselves, which I was like, ooh, a little steamy for ABCTGIF.
What's also happening after the half hour?
They're going to bed.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're tired and they're adults. Oh my God, clearly we don't have children. You're like, what? It's only a half hour. And they start making out. Also, oh, by the way, before they start making out, Alan's like, are you ever disappointed that like I never built bridges? And Amy's like, you've got a really great job where people respect you. You have 3 beautiful children who are fast asleep in their beds, and you have a wife who has nothing to do for the next 30 minutes. Sometimes I'm like, Amy, you are so written by a man, you know, like just this perfect, wonderful mom who's just like, serving everybody, everything. And then she's just like, oh, horny when it's time. And like, you know, I'm just like, wow. Mm-hmm. I thought it was weird that Cory was like filming them while they were making out and like got in closer into their faces. And I was like, dude, weird. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I would have made a ruckus. Be like, stop.
Right?
Stop
he like
what
lets
you're
it go on for a little too long. And I was like, ew. But then he's like, guys, can you like stop kissing? This like isn't interesting. And then Alan's just like, how about a chase scene? And then he like chases after him and he's like, give me the camera. What was your fashion moment?
You know what? I don't think I did have one. I like that yours was Larry's Mr. Feeny mini-me costume. My takeaways are I really appreciated the general idea of you can do anything you set your mind to, and this like big grand dream for kids of like, you know, you could do anything. If you want to be a rock star, if you want to be a baseball player, if you, like, the sky's the limit. It's beautiful to dream like that, and to have parents that support that. It's beautiful. Cory's able to dream a big dream, but then also his dad, the superhero, lives a normal life. Did not succeed in his larger dreams, but is still so fulfilled and happy. And that you can have success in both of those is a beautiful story, and it's a beautiful thing to promote, in my opinion.
My takeaway is to give students more chances to ruminate on their futures, and to give students more space to realize their dreams so that they can start to actualize them, and to help them and give them tools to achieve them.
And you can have multiple dreams at the same time, right? Like, you could
Exactly.
be so, like, I'm very interested in what I do in my day job, and I'm also very interested in what I do outside of that. And it's encouraged to do both, and to find joy in both of those things, and to learn both.
100%.
Or however many things that you're interested in.
Life is long, and if you're like me, you want to try 100,000 things. I mean, I make jewelry. I just started this podcast. I like to rock climb and hike. And I wrote a book, and I write poetry, and I teach, and I swim, and I'm a swim coach. And I mean, I do 100,000,000 things. And if you told me I could only pick one, I'd be like, what? What?
Yeah, you couldn't pick.
I couldn't pick. You know? And for me, that is my dream. And you have that when you have financial security, you know?
Correct.
And teaching barely provides me with that. Anyway, that's it for the episode. Please rate and review us. Follow us on Instagram at Boy Meets World Podcast. The name of the wine we had today was Bonanza. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon from California. Theme song credit goes to my very own sister, Julia Rosa. That's right. Next week's episode is Santa's Little Helper. Cory discovers that the spirit of giving is more important than presents. Bye.
Bye.